I've seen people who've had an affair who were very ambiguous and planning on leaving. They were totally burned out, and they were having an affair because they were done with the marriage and pretty much ready to go.
It was kind of an exit.
Yeah, they were exiting the marriage. But one of the reasons they stayed, in the marriage was because they had kids. But there was no emotional connection. And what helped them get the emotional connection back is when they saw the one that they had hurt, saw how much they really loved them, and wanted to make it work.
You're listening to Healing Broken Trust podcast with Brad and Morgan Robinson, where we talk about healing from affairs, infidelity, trust, and cheating in your relationship from the perspective of a professional marriage therapist and affair recovery expert. If you're wanting to heal your marriage, this is the podcast for you. And we're on episode number 13, and we're talking about factors that influence ambiguity or ambiguous feelings. And we're going to talk from the perspective or the question of, what keeps me feeling so confused? Now, this is an important episode, but I want you to also know that you really need to go and listen to episode 12. That's really talking about, should I stay or should I go? So download episode 12, and it's a good idea to listen to episode 12 before you listen to episode 13, which is the one we're about to play. So do that. Make sure to listen to episode 12 and then come and listen to episode 13. And I want you also to remember that you have free resources waiting for you on the internet at your disposal, at your fingertips, if you'll just go to healingbrokentrust.com/episode 13. That's healingbrokentrust.com/episode 13. That's the number 13. Grab those downloads. And you can also on that website, healingbrokentrust.com, you can leave us a voicemail as well. Just go on there, leave us a voicemail. Let us know if these resources are helping you, and let us know what you think about the podcast. Obviously, go to iTunes and leave us a review if you love it, and tell your friends about it, and leave us a voicemail on our website as well. So don't forget to download your free resources, healingbrokentrust.com/episode 13. Let's get started.
Almost every couple, there's a period of ambiguity, that uncertainty that they go through.
Right.
Are we going to stay together or are we going to be done? I want to spend a few moments just talking about this, the things that most affect ambiguity. And I would say on this, it's really the factors that influence uncertainty for a spouse to choose to stay and factors that affect a spouse who's going to leave. I want to just go over these because they can help save your marriage, help you guys work through this a little bit more on what the spouse who had the affair is thinking and the spouse who was betrayed, what they're considering. And these are things that I hear. By no means is this list exhaustive. I've got 20 different things here. There could easily be 40 things, but I just want to go through this. One of the things that's really important for injured spouses that affects if they want to stay or go is the amount of deception involved by the one who had the affair. The amount of deception that they use to cover their tracks. Were you lying to me face to face? I've kind of felt like something was a little off. Did you lie to your spouse, when this was happening? That's going to affect their ability to trust in their ambiguity.
Kind of your blatant lies.
Yeah. Did they approach you? I feel like you may be cheating. Is there everything okay between us?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, not at all. I'm happily married. We're okay. A couple months later you find out that they have been cheating. That's going to affect your should we stay or go.
Right. They're going to go back to that moment. Another one would be, if it was witnessed by the injured spouse, as it actually happened, as it physically happened, if they saw you with them, if they saw it, that could really influence their ambiguous feelings as to whether they should stay or go, or if it should even remain intact. So witnessing the event is a big one.
Yeah, and Morgan, that's very important. If you actually physically saw what was happening between the two people, that's going to affect you. And what I'm talking about specifically is sex. If you saw them having sex, that's going to affect if you want to stay or go.
Right.
How much the injured spouse feels like they're being lied to. How much honesty is there there? That's what I'm talking about. Are you being honest with me?
Do I know what honesty looks like on your face?
How can I read you? How can I trust you?
Right.
Are you being honest with me right now?
Another one would be what the marriage was like before the affair. Was there a negative cycle that was happening before you even discovered this or before it even led to an affair? Right, Brad? That's a big one.
That is super important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Morgan, along with that is the uncertainty of the spouse who's been betrayed, if it will happen again. Or do they know, what kind of reassurance do they have of will it happen again?
Right.
As long as that is a huge question in their mind, they're going to be uncertain about staying or going.
Right, especially if this wasn't the first time they discovered that you had cheated. That's a big deal. The other one, the sincerity. The seventh one, the sincerity and remorse of the involved spouse will determine the level of uncertainty about the future of the injured spouse. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Morgan, that's a very good one.
Being sincere.
How sincere, how remorseful are they? Do they care about me?
Mm-hmm.
And that really goes both ways. Because sometimes I've worked with people who had an affair, and I want to really make this really an exclamation point with what I'm trying to say here. I've seen people who've had an affair who were very ambiguous and planning on leaving. They were totally burned out, and they were having an affair because they were done with the marriage and pretty much ready to go.
It was kind of an exit.
Yeah, they were exiting the marriage. But one of the reasons they stayed, in the marriage was because they had kids. But there was no emotional connection. And what helped them get the emotional connection back is when they saw the one that they had hurt, saw how much they really loved them, and wanted to make it work. So when the person who had the affair saw the one they betrayed really care for them after their affair was made known, that is what helped them choose to stay in the marriage.
Kind of re-engage.
Yeah, and that has happened a lot.
Yeah, I believe
that has happened a lot. And so, that sincerity and remorse, just knowing you're cared for, that's really what that is saying. I care about you. And you have to show your sincerity and remorse. There's no shortcuts with that.
Right.
Morgan, another thing is, has the one who's been betrayed, the injured spouse, been betrayed before in a previous relationship?
Yeah, that would really put someone on edge.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a human lie detector at that point. It's happened to me before. How can I trust that it's not going to happen with you? And if you, if you're doing that, if you're betraying me, it's not as much of a surprise, I think. The next one, the attitudes of family and friends who know about the affair. What are their attitudes? Are they encouraging you to try to work out your relationship, or just encouraging you to leave?
Yeah, are they friendly towards your marriage? That can be a key one. Does the injured spouse have children with the betrayer?
Ooh, that's
that affects
tough.
Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because we're getting low on time, I'm going to sort through some of these.
Okay.
Religious views about divorce and remarriage.
Right.
That's important. How much has a negative cycle affected the couple's ability to discuss the affair, or even feel close? So there's a negative cycle that happens before the affair, and obviously there's a negative cycle that affects a couple's ability to recover.
And to discuss the affair. Right.
And if the injured spouse feels like they are too old to meet someone new, they'll be more inclined to work things out.
Right.
That's also a factor. Another factor is, for the injured spouse, is the betrayer getting help? If they're a sex addict or a philanderer, are they getting help for this? Am I seeing some real changes inside of them? As long as there's a huge question mark around sex addiction, or the morality, or the values, or the lifestyle of the philanderer, as long as there's not any progression, there's no visible help being made or changes being made, people are going to be a little bit more uncertain about staying after they've been betrayed.
Right. That makes sense. What about the involved spouse?
Yeah, Morgan, the involved spouse, there's a few things for them as well that affect that level of ambiguity that's in them, that uncertainty about staying and working it out. Number one, I would say, is the quality of the marriage before the affair.
Right.
That's super important. How do I know that things will be different?
Right.
And many times they want to leave because they don't know that. How deep was their feelings for the affair partner? Or how deep are they currently for the affair partner?
Right.
Some people get stuck in that limerence, which we've talked about. How long and how deep was the relationship with the affair partner? How long did this affair go on? How deep did it get? And I would even include with that is how much fighting has gone on since the affair was discovered. That's an important part of choosing to work it out, because people can really feel helpless and very hopeless.
Really stuck in that negative cycle, too.
Other factors that go with this is, does the betrayer have kids with their spouse at home? Does the betrayer have their own kids with their spouse who they cheated on? That's going to make them more likely to want to work it out. religious views about divorce and remarriage. And if the involved spouse feels like and this is also important, Morgan, if the involved spouse feels like they are too old to meet someone new, they'll be more inclined to work things out.
Right.
Right. And Morgan, this is so important for both, is both people need to know that they are cared about, that their spouse does love them, that they really are cared about. That's significant towards working this out, towards ambiguity. But those are some factors that influence ambiguity, and we've discussed the kind of the psychology of the betrayer, the mindset of someone who's having an affair, the thought process, where they're at in the marriage. Affairs do not happen almost
in a bubble.
Most of the time in a healthy marriage, in a good marriage. Sometimes people mistakenly think they're in a good marriage because there's not any conflict, we have good communication, but they're not really communicating
about wants and needs.
Yeah, well, they're not really emotionally engaged with each other.
Right.
They're really good roommates, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to know that they're desired and wanted and really cared for. And when that's uncertain, that's when affairs happen. When that's uncertain in a person's mind, they're more likely to cheat.
They begin to care less about the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, they begin to care less about maintaining that relationship.
Right.
For emotional reasons.
And that usually happens over time, wouldn't you agree? Or could it be?
It can. It depends.
Okay.
But it varies.
Okay.
Well, thank you. You've been listening to How to Recover from an Affair with Brad and Morgan Robinson.
Have a great week, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Healing Broken Trust. If you like this episode, you can always get our show notes and more details and links to the resources we discussed at healingbrokentrust.com. Also, as long as you're online, head on over to healingbrokentrust.com/retreat for details on an upcoming one-on-one retreat with me. If you like us, please subscribe and leave a review for us on iTunes. As always, everything discussed on this podcast is either my opinion or Morgan's opinion and is not to be taken as relationship advice because I'm not your therapist, nor have I considered your personal situation as your therapist. This podcast is for your entertainment and education only, and I really do hope you've enjoyed it. See you until next time.